All right, we are going to be doing word studies here in Bible research, and there really isn't any new skill that you should need to learn in order to do what Lanny has been talking about in your word studies. However, I want to take the opportunity to refresh some of those skills that you might want a refresher on, as well as to show you a few new tricks that could be helpful in doing the word study that Lanny's been talking about. So see the lectures in Bible research for the theory and why we're doing this and what needs to be done, but I'll show you a few things here. Okay, so the first thing that may need review is finding your definitions. Now, you should already have that down pretty good, having looked at the Mounts video recently. But remember, the way you find your definitions is you just click on the Strong's number corresponding to your word that you're looking at. So if you wanted to look at the word Almighty, you'd click on it, and because you've set the Dictionary of Biblical Language as your main lexicon, it's going to come up with this definition for you. And so that's wonderful. However, if you don't have this interlinear pane, it's because you probably have it turned off here. So remember, if you click on this little Aleph and Omega symbol up here, it'll toggle on and off your interlinear pane. Or maybe it's that you have not clicked reverse interlinear pane. That's technically what you're seeing down here. If that's unselected and instead you have the inline reverse interlinear, then whatever information you've asked it to give you is going to be just presented down here. And that usually is a little bit crowded and it's not wonderful. So I would deselect inline reverse interlinear and select reverse interlinear. And remember, you can right click down here on the left hand side and tell it what things you want it to include. I prefer to see things in the Greek and the Hebrew, but maybe you want to just have lemma transliterated, so it spells it out in English, and maybe you just want that and maybe you don't want to see the Greek at all. Maybe you do, but select what you want it to show you, okay? And so that will give you access to that. Now, if you are in the web app, unfortunately, it doesn't allow you, and you'll have the same feature. Here's my NASB, here's that little icon. You'll have the ability only to do the inline one, and you can select which things you want it to show you, the lemma, transliteration, the morphology, which you'll want, and we'll talk about that eventually in these courses, and the Strong's number. Sadly, though, you just have to have this crowded view. So what do? Leave that on all the time? I wouldn't recommend it. That annoyed the snot out of me. I'd keep it off most of the time, but you could select it when you wanted to look at that information. Instead, here's a quick way to get to your definitions. If you go to your DBL, and if you, on the right-hand menu, set it to the same link set that your Bible is set to, in this case it's link set A, from now on, when you click on a word, it's going to double-click on it. It will follow you around. So if I double-click on tribulation, it knows what I really want is the Greek word behind tribulation, and it's going to pull up my definition there. So that's a great way to do that. That way you don't always have to have the interlinear pane open if all you want to do is find a definition. Another workaround could be to open the Info tab. If you go over to Tools, and you'll find this to be true in the software version as well as the web app. If you go over to Tools and open up the Information tab, it'll open up a tab for you. And in your computer version, it will be probably this little window to the side. And anytime you click on a word, it's going to give you that information that you would have seen in most of the information you would have seen in your interlinear pane. Well, I think all of it. If you click on the Greek word, and you know it's the lemma now that we're after because that little circle-y symbol, it will give you it'll open a word study report, which we'll show you in a few minutes. But if you click on the Greek Strong's number or hover over it, it will give you the definition from your preferred lexicon. So you can keep this open all the time, the Information tab, and just have it follow you around, just like the interlinear pane. So those are some of the workarounds if you're working in the web app. So now that we come to this particular assignment, you learned how to find definitions from the dictionary, biblical language, as well as Mounce. That's stage 1 of the word study. The heart of the word study, though, is in analyzing every reference to that particular Greek or Hebrew word. And to do so, you need to find every occurrence of that Hebrew or Greek word. What you can't do is go to your Bible search, and if I were studying the word fellowship, for instance, I couldn't just search for the word fellowship, because maybe Lanny has asked me to do a study on the Greek word behind fellowship found in Acts chapter 2, verse, let's say, 42. They devoted themselves to the fellowship. So remember, this is review, but the way you do this is you right-click on the word you're interested in, and there's 2 ways to do this. You can click on the lemma, which is indicated by this circly Bible word study report symbol, which opens up the lemma menu on the left. And then and remember, what is the lemma? It's the most basic dictionary entry of the word. Koinonia can be spelled lots of ways depending on how it works in a Greek sentence, but that's the headline word. That's the word you're after. And you go down to the search place and you say, search my Bible, and it will open up a search. And this is repopulating my old search because I have told Logos in the right-hand menu to send searches here. That way I'm not opening up a bunch of tabs every time I do this. And it gave me 19 results in 17 verses. And the word might be translated contribution or sharing, but I'm not getting a report on any English word. I'm getting a report on where the Greek word koinonia appears. And another way to get to the same results is to right-click, and instead of clicking on koinonia, let's say you click on the Strong's number. Remember, Strong's numbers are just a numbering system, numbers that have been assigned to lemmas. So looking up the Strong's number for the lemma koinonia should give you the same results. Search the Bible for every time that Strong's number occurs. It does give me the same results. Sometimes it will not, because Logos may have assigned some occurrences to a different number, but that's pretty rare. But either way will do. And now you have a list of all of the verses that you're going to need to analyze, okay? And so for your report here, you're going to be making, of course, a chart in stage 2, where you're going to have, a table with the verse reference, the quote, and information, or however you want to call it, and your analysis, where you're analyzing the who, what, why, where of that word. So to easily get that information there, you just go and you highlight, you click within this hit here, and you highlight like that. Copy it, and now paste it into this document. You're going to have to do a little bit of formatting. I actually want my, oh goodness, it didn't put a space there. I want this over here and that there. And look, it's even kept the word highlighted. It's actually not keeping the word highlighted. It's keeping an actual link there, which if you click it, it will go open up your web app to that word's definition or something. So if it bothers you, you can take the hyperlink away, but just make sure that you don't forget to keep the right word highlighted. Okay? I would rather you copy and paste than guess, because oftentimes you might copy and paste this verse in there. You might type the verse out and forget which of the words is being translated from koinonia. So this method of highlighting, copying, pasting, and rearranging can help you to keep the right word, because you want to keep the word of interest in mind in this chart. Okay, so you can format it however you want. You can also play around with exporting these results to a Word document or an Excel spreadsheet or something like that. You play around with that on your own. But the only way to keep the hyperlinks in your copy and pasting so you get the right word is what I just showed you. Okay, there's a few things that you're going to need to know on the web app, though, for that are a little bit different. Let's say I was wanting to look up every occurrence of the word brother here in Revelation 1:9. If I right-click on the word brother, notice that right away I might be tempted to click on this lemma here, ho, and do a Bible search the Bible. And just like I did for the software, but what I've done is actually looked up the word ha, is actually how I think it should be said, and that's the Greek word the. And the Greek word the appears a lot more frequently in the Greek text than it can be translated. This would literally say something like, I, John, you're the brother, signifying him as a particularly important brother. And there's lots of ways that Greek uses that article, a the for us, that we wouldn't use in Greek, in English. So in your, you kind of gloss right over that in your software version on your computer. If I were to right click on the word fellowship, there's also the article there. That's the word ha, and this literally says in Greek, they devoted themselves to the teaching and to the fellowship. But my translation just said fellowship. And Logos is smart enough to collapse the option to search for and look at the article ha, the, there, and it knows I'm probably not wanting to research the. I'm probably wanting to research what the modifies here, and that's koinonia. And so I was able to go to the lemma and open up the lemma's search the Bible results. So just remember now, if you're going to be using the web app, and it's similar here to what I was just showing you on Brother, to not go to the if it's there. Instead, go to the word you're after. And you can tell because it will give you this little definition, and it won't be ha. Okay? So in this case, you can get to the same results the same way. Adelphos, that's the lemma or the Strong's number, and search the Bible there. And it will give me my search results. Unfortunately, it won't. There's no way to tell it to repopulate an existing search tab in the web app. So you're just going to find yourself opening up lots of search tabs. This is thanking a lot, but that's probably just because maybe there's a glitch in the internet. It shouldn't take that long. Okay, well, there's the results. So just remember that about the web app. And copying and pasting your results into your chart look the same. So you just copy and paste, and this is actually a convoluted word study here because now we're combining words. And remember, what Lanny asks you to do is to not only paste the words, but to give details from this. Details. Hopefully it's actually details and not just the word details. And then your analysis will be something like, who are the brothers? What is brotherhood in this passage? Why is brotherhood being addressed? There's lots of why or what questions you can ask, but you want to ask the ones that you think are pertinent to most of the data. Anyway, Lanny will set you straight there. But a remark, though, just a reminder and a caution. Whatever you come up in with the information, this is likely going to be stuff that you have gathered from your books, right? Like your Bible dictionaries, or let's say you've gone and you've opened up the IVP Bible Background Commentary, and you wanted to know what it said about fellowship here. Come over here. There we are. And he's going to give you some cultural background and commentary. And let's say you find some good background information on your word study here, and you start putting it here. Remember, just because this isn't a research essay doesn't mean you can plagiarize. And if we find that you have not cited your sources, then you'll get a 0, like as a school policy. And if it really doesn't seem like you were acting nefariously and it's not a repeated problem, we'll ask you to resubmit it, possibly for a penalty. But remember, you would have to cite your sources. And you can go back to your Bible dictionary video if you need some help remembering how easy that is. But essentially, you go to the 3-dot menu for any book, and you say, show the information. And you can scroll down, and you can say, I want MLA, and it's going to say, here's how you... Here's the information. This is how your works cited should look. But you also, so I would copy this, and at the end of my paper, I would make sure to have a works cited, and I would say, there's my works cited, and then here, within the text, even if I didn't quote Mr. Keener, even if I didn't quote him directly, let's say I was just summarizing his data, which is the best way to go about it, I still have to give him honor and credit, otherwise it's plagiarism. And then I have to also see if Logos has a page number and for that particular thing. And in this case, this resource doesn't have page numbers with it, so I would just say Keener there. And then I think I would have to add to this no page. But you should, I'm not quite sure. Just you double check your MLA guidelines. And remember, this would be true even for mounts. Mounts is a source. You can't mounts or the DBL. You can't cite Logos as a source ever. Logos is never a source. Logos is a repository of sources. So if you in any paper say this Greek word means blah, 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 and you didn't derive that from your own years of studying the Greek language, then you have to cite your sources, just like you would have it in the info tab of any resource, including this one here. So it's the same principles across the board. So even in a word study, cite your lexical sources, cite your second column data sources, cite mounts, cite the DBL, cite whatever. Okay. Now one more tool which will potentially help you, although it won't necessarily provide what you haven't already been seeing, is if you go to your guides over here with the little compass symbol and you click on Bible word study, it will open up a report and it will say, hey, why don't you type a Greek word or a Hebrew word? If it's Greek, start with G, and my word is fellowship, and I can remember how it's sort of koinonia, and it will say, oh, do you want this word, koinonia? And you kind of have to, no, that's koinologia. I want koinonia, yes. Now, you see, I had to have some facility with Greek to guess the right one. Otherwise, I'd be doing the wrong word study. But it opens up a report with a lot of this information, including a nice colorful graph, which is fun, but not necessarily giving you more than what we've already showed you. And that's wonderful. How do you make sure you're getting to the right word, since you might not know which one to select? You can access this from the right-click menu, or the control-click if you're on a Mac. And when you go to the lemma, instead of selecting search Bible, you can just do a Bible word study on this word I just clicked on, and it will open up the same report here. And it will consolidate your information. It'll say, here's some lexicons that you like, the DBL definition. Here's a brief summary of it. Click on that for the full definition. It will probably give me mounts. I have a lot of these. I'm almost apologetic about it, but there would be mounts down here somewhere. You could open up mounts and open up his lexicon and then find out where he says to go for the different articles where I could find more information. And it's kind of arranged like a word study, like we're teaching you. And so you have stage 1 there essentially, and then stage 2, it says koinonia is translated fellowship in these verses, participation in these verses, and this is assuming my NASB, and so on and so forth. What it doesn't do is put them all together in one space where you can copy and paste them in biblical order. And if you want to drive Lanny and me crazy, you will copy and paste these verses, which you actually can't do. I don't think it allows you to highlight them, thank God, because you could copy and paste them out of biblical order. These are arranged in order of how they're being translated, and we would want your stage 2 to be in biblical order. But you might have different features here. You probably don't have a lot of these that I have in my higher library, which all sorts of analysis of how this word can go. So this helps consolidate that data in one place. However, honestly, I don't know. I think when you get used to the right-clicking and searching on your own, you'll just find it easier, I think, to do it how we've told you to do it. Well, there's your word study. Follow Lanny's instructions, and this is a review and an expansion of how to do the skills required for a word study.